Hi fiddlers, I'm Reynolds here with session 9, version 2a of the Free-Fiddle-Workshop here in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's the 30th of June 2014. I'm going to be following along with the document I wrote. You can get a copy of this document. I recommend that you download a copy of this document so you can follow along. You can get a copy of this document at dropbox.com. Look for the folder Free-Fiddle-Workshop, put dashes in between. And let's get started on the lesson. When I'm done, on YouTube, you can find these sessions at Free-Fiddle-Workshop. Put session and you can put 01 through 10. There's 10 sessions in all. Free-Fiddle-Workshop sample, I'll have some samples up there. I have some samples up there now. They all need to be updated. I'll have those updated by September. Let's get started with the lesson. The purpose of this lesson is, the objective of this workshop is basically bow control. But fiddlers, you do need to play some notes to go along with the bowing. So I'm going to talk about the tips I use and talk about the left hand techniques that I'm currently using. I have good news and bad news about the left hand. The good news is the left hand has much fewer responsibilities. The left hand is just working in 2 dimensions. It's just putting fingers down somewhere on one plane. And it stays in pretty much a position, in one position. You can slide to 3rd position, but basically the responsibilities of the left hand are much fewer. The bad news on page 2 is that it's going to take a long time. These fewer responsibilities are quite challenging, and it'll probably take about as much practice time working on the left hand as it does for the right hand. The 2 keys to the musical universe, I'm going to talk a little bit about those later on in the session. I will have 2 follow-up videos where I actually go through some songs using the 2 keys to the video. One of the keys is to slow down the song note by note. The other key is called squawk notes, where you just touch a string and get a squawking sound. I'll demonstrate that in this session. Left hand fundamentals on page 2. Light touch. What we want to do for fiddling, we want to just press the string down hard enough to reach the fingerboard and no more. You stop right there. When I started taking fiddle lessons about 25 years ago, I had calluses on the bottom of my fingers. I play a lot more now. I have very few calluses. Very light touch is what we're going for. A light touch allows a fiddler to learn to lift up the finger as little as possible, move it to another string as effectively as possible, and press it down as lightly as possible. Bottom of page 2, lift finger after note. At one time I played with under the concept that once I set a finger down, don't move it again until it's needed. And I'm still trying to undo that. What I found is that the fingers are so interconnected that if you have one finger pressed down and another finger goes down, a lot of times they interfere with each other. So basically one finger on a string at a time. Sometimes you come right back to the note, so there would be exceptions to that. But when you're done with this, when you go to the next note, lift up the previous finger. On to page 3. This workshop is going to teach a little bit of a wrist twist. In order to get to the low strings down here, have the wrist twisted a little bit inwards, and to get to the high strings, twist the wrist outwards. See that little twist there? Twist in and then twist out. I have the fiddle located right on this fleshy spot of the index finger, and I'm just doing a little twist there. Theoretically, it would be better to use just one position, and now you shouldn't have your hand flopping all around. You want to use your fingers as much as possible, but I found that with just one position, getting my fingers bent on the high strings was just too difficult to control. And I may still work on that. So what I do is, when I get to the high strings, at least I try to remember to do, is twist the wrist outward a little bit, and that makes it a little bit easier for the fingers to access the high strings. Once you get, they're still going to have to be more bent than they are on the low strings. But try to get to where your fingers do the movement as much as possible, not as much hand. I practiced trying one position for months, and like I said, I didn't have that many problems on the lower strings. But when I got to the high strings, that increased bend that you need to have a single position caused too much interference. So I do twist the wrist outward a little bit. And I have some pictures of that on page 3. On to page 4, wrist bent inward. This inward bend, when you're holding the fiddle, here's the inward bend. provides good access, especially to the low strings. Some fiddlers, I've seen some fiddlers play with an outward bend like this, where their hand is flat. You don't get as vertical as an angle of attack on your fingers when you do that. I found this I tried this a little bit. I found this to be less accurate than the outward bend, where the fingers can come straight down on the strings. Left thumb bent on the bottom of page 4. Traditional fiddling pretty much teaches you to make a V like that, but in a V like that, there's a lot of tension there. What I found is a little bend in the thumb relaxes that and makes gives a little bit makes it a little bit easier to move the rest of the fingers. So this workshop does teach bend the thumb a little bit and get that tension out of that. These fingers are all connected down here. On to page 5. The left pinky, when I started playing, my left pinky was sticking way up in the air, and the squawk notes, which I'm going to talk about pretty soon, will prevent that. I see a lot of beginning players. It's actually hard for me to do this now. When I started playing, I could not do it. But you see, if you see somebody with their pinky sticking up in the air, they don't have control of their fingers. Use squawk notes, get control of that pinky, get it down here. All these fingers are interconnected, and even though the pinky's not playing any notes, if the pinky's sticking up in the air, that pinky's affecting all the other fingers. And fingers are all connected to each other. I'm going to go on to page 6, and let's see a little do a little exercise to show how these fingers are connected to each other. If you make a fist and hold it up like this, and then lift one finger in the air at the time and see what you can do with it. The index finger goes straight up, pretty much no problem. The middle finger, no comments from the peanut gallery, but you need to know how these fingers are interconnected. Doesn't make it up quite as much. The ring finger isn't even close. So the ring finger is really restricted there. These the middle two fingers are quite connected, and the pinky can go kind of straight up, but I can't close the ring finger when I do that. One of the results of that is when there's half steps between the middle finger and the third finger, that's pretty easy. But when there's whole steps, doing the Spock thing. When there's whole steps, that's tougher to control. So you need to practice that more. Squawk notes. How do you get these fingers to act lightly? I'm going to do. Here's a little bit. Here's the first part of Soldier's Joy. Now to practice that, what a squawk note is, just touching the string. I'm not even pressing down. And what that does, that teaches the fingers to lift as little as possible. Now your whole notes, your open strings, should sound normal. But that teaches the fingers to lift up as little as possible. It teaches them to move as efficiently as possible, and it teaches them to go directly to the string. That's called squawk notes. Folks, fiddlers, that's one of the keys to the musical universe. On to page 7, left hand troubleshooting. One of the biggest enemies that you have is your left thumb. If you find that your fingers are tightening up too much, look at the digits that aren't supposed to do anything. I was taught to not look at the fiddle while I play, and there's a lot of merit to this rule because we humans let our eyesight overwhelm all our other senses, and the most important sense when you play is your hearing, to listen to what you're doing. Nevertheless, I look at my fingers mainly to look for troubleshooting, mainly to look for fingers doing things they're not supposed to do, looking for the thumb wiggling too much, looking for if I press down we use the second hand and the third finger goes down, there's too much tension there. So I'm usually looking for I'm usually looking for fingers that are doing too much work. Vibrato on the bottom of page 7. I love the sound of a smooth, subtle vibrato. I don't know how to do that. I've never been taught. If the videos I've seen on YouTube say that if you want to learn vibrato, they give you some exercises and don't plan on doing it for 6 months. I would like to point out to you fiddlers that if you can get your intonation down and you have power and control, a fiddle tune can sound good without vibrato. There are some fiddlers that think they have to do vibrato to be a fiddler. I disagree. I've seen fiddlers that can't hit a note with the side of the barn and they make these terrible notes and then they wiggle their hands. Fiddlers, get your intonation down and your finger control down and then think about learning vibrato. Maybe someday I'll try to learn vibrato, but my fingers still need to get more control. On to page 8. Stance and left hand arm, 4 steps from session 4, the 0 point, and I do like to have the heels together. The heels together, even if they're just a little bit apart, is not as much stability as if the heels are together, and I don't always remember to do that. Take your left arm and drape it across your body so there's as much contact as much as possible. Now I am twisting up here, but the rest of the arm is relaxed. Flip the hand back, rotate it up. What I like about this contact point, I tried playing the traditional style where the fiddle's out, where the arm's out a little bit. I think that puts too much strain on the arm. You can kind of feel it. Here, the arms are relaxed. And another good thing is I get a calmness monitor point. I'll play whole tunes just feeling that. And if I feel this bouncing up and down, I know that I'm stretching. I know that there's tension that's not required. Then so. Drape your left arm across, flip your hand back, that gives you good access to the G string, bend your wrist outward. And there's the calmness monitor point at the bottom of page 8. Page 9, holding the fiddle. Get your left thumb as relaxed as possible. Here's where I place the fiddle, right on this fleshy part, right there. I place the bottom of the neck, bottom of the fiddle neck right on that fleshy part. So, like this, put the bottom of the fiddle on that fleshy part, and I'm holding the fiddle on the right hand chin, as relaxed as can be, with the wrist bent outward. The left thumb is your enemy. Say that again at the bottom of page 9. But position work. This workshop isn't going to do a lot of position work stuff. This is called first position, where the first finger hits the first note. And the other most common position for fiddlers to play is third position. What I'm currently doing is to get to third position, I have the wrist bent out, I slide the fiddle up right on that fleshy part and try to keep that as smooth as possible. I do twist the wrist back inwards and even undo the lock on the fiddle. And what I find, and here's my stopping point. My stopping point is right there. And for going back from third to first position is more of a challenge because you have to hold on to the fiddle a little bit to keep it from slipping. But when I slide from first position to third position, I monitor this monitor point. It shouldn't change. I should just be contracting the arm, expanding the arm. I find that I don't need the wrist twist up here. On the higher notes, your finger spacing isn't as much as on the lower notes. Just like a guitar, as you go up the neck, the spacing of the notes gets smaller. So I can reach the notes without the wrist twist once I get to third position. So I do take the wrist twist out, or the wrist bend out once I get to third position, and then back. That's position work adds a lot of complexity to a fiddle song. If you ever learn to do it correctly, which I'm still working on quite a bit, it can add a new dimension. It can add a new dimension. Playing slowly, a note at a time. I've advertised that for getting control of the bow. This will also apply to getting your left fingers under control, learning to move from one part at a time. If you have a song and your fingers misbehave, slow down that song, and redo it until your fingers behave, and play at that speed until they behave normally, until you burn that muscle memory in so the fingers behave. Folks, I'm Rock Reynolds. Fiddlers, I'm Rock Reynolds. This has been session 9. It's been a pleasure serving your fiddle educational needs. Fiddlers, I'll see you in session 10. Rap with you later.